He arrived looking like a tramp. No money. No connections. No plan. Edison hired him anyway. Not his resume, not his education. Because of the look in his eyes. A look that said, "I will not leave until I get what I came for." That young man was Edwin Barnes. He had one single desire, to become the business partner of the greatest inventor alive. And years later, when the deal was finally sealed, Edison said he had seen it coming from the very first moment. Not from Barnes' skills, from the intensity of his thought. This book was published in 1937, compiled from 25 years of research into the habits and minds of over 500 of the most successful people in American history. And its central argument is one of the most radical ideas ever put into print. Wealth is not primarily a function of what you do. It is a function of what you think. Your thoughts don't just influence your results, they are the results. And that idea is either going to sound like the most important thing you've ever heard, or like complete nonsense. By the end of this video, you'll know which one it is. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is one of the best-selling books in history. Not because it tells you to work harder. Everyone already knows they should work harder. It sells because it claims to do something far more valuable. Explain why people with identical talent, identical opportunity, and identical effort end up in completely different places in life. And it offers a reproducible system. 13 principles drawn from the actual success patterns of Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, and hundreds of others that anyone can apply. By the end of this video, you will understand the one thing that separates people who consistently achieve from people who consistently fall short. And it is not what most people assume. You will understand why most goals fail before they even start. Why faith is not a spiritual concept but a mental technology. Why the people around you are either building your future or quietly dismantling it. And why the most dangerous enemy you will ever face has no name, no face, and lives entirely inside your own head. Stay through to the end. The final lesson is the one this whole book was building toward. Thoughts are things. The opening that changes everything. Napoleon Hill opens this book with a declaration that sounds almost absurd until you think about it carefully. Thoughts are things, not metaphors, not inspirations. Things with weight, direction, and the power to produce physical results. This is not mysticism. It is the core observation Hill made after spending a quarter-century studying what the most successful people in America actually had in common. The story of Edwin Barnes is where it begins. Barnes had no money, no introduction to Edison, no credential, no contact. He had one thing, a burning, consuming desire to work alongside Edison as a partner, not an employee, as a partner. He rode a freight train to New Jersey. He walked into the laboratory. He announced his intention. Edison, who had spent decades studying human character, said later that he knew immediately this man would either get what he came for or die trying. That certainty in a person's manner, Hill argues, is not personality. It is the external expression of an internal state so strong that the world reorganizes itself around it. But here's where the story takes a turn nobody expects. Barnes didn't get the partnership on that first day. He got a menial job, tasks nobody else wanted, minimal pay. 5 years passed. No promotion, no promise, no visible progress toward the goal. And here is the detail Hill considers most important. Barnes never wavered, not once. In his own mind, from day one, he was already Edison's partner. He was simply waiting for the world to catch up with what he already knew to be true. The opportunity arrived disguised as something nobody wanted. Edison had invented a dictating machine. His sales team thought it was unsellable. Barnes recognized it as his moment. He told Edison he could sell it. Barnes sold it so effectively that Edison gave him the national distribution contract. The slogan became Made Edison, installed by Barnes. One partnership, built from nothing but the sustained force of a single, definite thought. And the next story is even harder to believe. 3 feet from gold, the most expensive mistake in history. During the gold rush, R.U. Darby followed his Uncle Wes to stake a claim in Colorado. After weeks of hard labor, they struck. The vein was rich. They borrowed money from relatives, bought machinery, and went back to work, convinced they were about to become wealthy men. Then the vein disappeared. They drilled on 4 weeks. Nothing. Finally, exhausted and in debt, They sold the machinery to a junk dealer and took the train home in defeat. The junk dealer called a mining engineer. The engineer's verdict was precise and brutal. The vein hadn't ended. It had shifted. 3 feet from where Darby had stopped drilling, the ore assumed. The junk dealer extracted millions of dollars from the same mine that Darby had abandoned. You're about to see what most people never realize. This story isn't about gold at all. Darby carried this lesson for the rest of his life. He became one of the top life insurance salespeople in the country, because every time a prospect said no, he saw that mine. Success doesn't arrive on the schedule you expect. It arrives just past the point where most people quit. Hill argues the most common cause of failure is not incompetence, not bad luck, not lack of talent. It is stopping 3 feet from the breakthrough, and nobody who stops ever knows exactly how close they were. This is the psychological core of Think and Grow Rich. Not primarily a book about money, a book about the internal architecture of persistence, about what separates the people who break through from those who walk away. And the architecture starts with a single concept that sounds simple and is anything but. Principle 1, desire. The furnace beneath everything. Hill is very specific about what desire means. He is not talking about wanting something. Wanting is passive. The desire Hill describes is different in kind, a consuming obsession that dominates your thinking, that you carry into sleep and wake up still holding, that you're willing to sacrifice everything else to achieve. He calls it a burning desire, and he means the word burning literally. The gap between wishing and burning desire is the gap between who you are and who you will become. Hill identifies 6 concrete steps for transmuting desire into its monetary equivalent. Fix an exact number, not a vague aspiration. Determine what you will give in exchange. Set a definite date. Create a plan and begin immediately. Write all of this in a clear statement. Then read it aloud twice every day, morning and night, with feeling, with visualization, as if it is already true. And this is where most people get it completely wrong. They treat these steps as motivation exercises. They aren't. These steps are instructions for a specific mental operation, the saturation of the subconscious mind with a definite image of a desired outcome. The subconscious does not evaluate. It does not question whether the goal is realistic. It responds to what it has shown repeatedly with intensity, and begins directing your awareness, your perceptions, and your behavior toward making that image real. This is not magic. It is the documented mechanism behind every large achievement Hill studied, but it only works if the desire is genuine. You cannot fake a burning desire. You either have it or you don't. Principle 2. Faith, the amplifier. Faith in Hill's framework has nothing to do with religion. It is a technical term for a specific mental state, the unshakable certainty that the desired outcome will be achieved, not hope or optimism. Certainty, and his argument is that faith is not a gift you either have or don't have. It is a state that can be deliberately induced and sustained through repetition. Every repeated thought that enters the subconscious with emotional intensity begins to calcify into belief. Every belief shapes behavior. Every pattern of behavior shapes results. This is why Hill says faith is the head chemist of the mind. When desire is mixed with faith, the combination redirects action, attention, and perception in ways that cannot occur without it. The person who believes they will succeed and the person who secretly doubts they will are not two people making different choices. They are two people with fundamentally different operating systems. But here's the part that will make you genuinely uncomfortable because it applies to you right now. Hill argues that most people walk through life in a state of chronic, low-grade negative autosuggestion. Every time you say, "I could never afford that," your subconscious is listening. Every time you say, "I'm not the kind of person who succeeds at things like that," it takes notes. Every time you dismiss your own ideas before anyone else gets the chance, you are planting seeds of failure that grow invisibly for years. The antidote is not positive thinking in the soft, vague sense. It is the deliberate, systematic replacement of these patterns. And it starts with understanding how the subconscious mind actually receives information. Principle 3, autosuggestion. Talking to the machine. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is vividly imagined with strong emotion. This is not a metaphor. It is a documented feature of human neurology that Hill identified decades before the science caught up. Athletes who visualize performance with emotional intensity before competition are not engaging in wishful thinking. They are programming the same neural pathways that actual performance uses. The same mechanism applies to financial success, to every outcome you repeatedly hold in your mind with feeling. Autosuggestion is the practice of feeding deliberate instructions to the subconscious through conscious repetition. The written statement Hill describes is the primary tool. You read it. You feel it. You see yourself already in possession of the outcome every day, without exception. Not because repetition alone creates results, but because repetition with feeling creates belief, and belief shapes the actions and decisions that create the physical conditions for the result to occur. This is why two people can read the same financial advice, and one applies it immediately, while the other forgets it. One believed it applied to them, the other didn't. And this is where it gets genuinely fascinating, because the next principle is the one that changes the speed of everything. Principle 4 in T Mastermind, the force multiplier. No individual has sufficient experience, education, imagination, and knowledge to achieve great results alone. This is not a self-help platitude. It is a structural observation about how large achievements get built. Andrew Carnegie did not know the technical details of making steel. He said so openly. What he knew was how to surround himself with people who did. Henry Ford, when sued by a newspaper that called him ignorant, responded to the attorney, "I have a row of buttons on my desk. Push one, and I get the best expert on any subject I need. Why would I clutter my mind with information I can summon in moments?" The mastermind principle is the deliberate formation of a group sharing a definite purpose who meet regularly in perfect harmony. Hill describes a phenomenon that occurs when two or more minds work in genuine alignment. A third mind emerges more powerful and more creative than any individual member could produce alone. Every major business Hill studied had it at its foundation. Every significant political achievement he examined traced back to a small group of aligned minds. Isolation is not just lonely. It is structurally limiting in ways that individual effort alone cannot overcome. But even the strongest mastermind cannot help someone who has the next problem. Persistence, the quality that makes all others work. Hill calls persistence the sustained effort necessary to induce faith, and he makes a claim that is, at first, shocking. Persistence is not a talent. It is not a personality trait. It is not something you either have or don't. It is a habit built through repeated choice, strengthened through practice, and available to any person willing to develop it. The quality of persistence is true human character, he says. What carbon is to steel? Fanny Hurst wanted to be a published writer. She moved to New York and spent 4 years being rejected. The Saturday Evening Post alone sent her 36 rejection slips. Most writers quit after 3. She didn't. She treated each rejection as information, adjusted her craft, and kept submitting. Then one story broke through. Publishers came to her. Hollywood paid the highest sum at that time ever paid for a novel before publication. 4 years of rejection. 1 breakthrough. 10. A flood. This is not the exception in Hill's research. It is the rule. The gap between those who achieve and those who don't is almost never talent. It is the willingness to keep going past the point where everyone else stops. But this is the part nobody wants to say out loud, and it needs to be said. Persistence without the other principles is stubbornness. Hill is not saying, work hard and never quit. He is saying, know clearly what you want. Build a plan. Surround yourself with the right people. Flood your subconscious with your goal, and then persist with that entire system in place. The person who works harder at the wrong thing gets more thoroughly stuck in failure, not closer to success. Persistence without direction is the most exhausting way to go nowhere. But persistence with all 13 principles operating simultaneously. That is the irresistible force this book describes. The invisible enemy. The 6 ghosts of fear. In the final chapter, Hill reveals what he considers the true subject of the entire book. Not money, not success. Fear. Specifically, the 6 basic fears that operate in almost every human mind and silently sabotage every other principle the book has taught. Poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. Of these, Hill identifies the fear of poverty as the most destructive and the most common. It operates not through obvious paralysis, but through subtle, invisible patterns. The person who never tries because they might fail, who never shares an idea because it might be ridiculed, who never invests because they might lose. Fear of poverty does not protect people from poverty. It produces it by preventing the exact actions that would create the opposite. And this is the part nobody talks about, and it's the piece that ties everything together. The mind cannot hold two dominant thoughts simultaneously. Fear and desire cannot coexist at the same intensity. The most practical application of every principle in this book is the systematic elimination of fear from your dominant thought patterns, replaced with the burning desire, the written plan, the daily autosuggestion, the mastermind alliance, and the persistent action that crowd fear out. The principles are not just aspirational tools. They are psychological warfare against the single most powerful force working against your own success. What this book is actually arguing: strip away the 1930s language and the occasional grandiosity of Hill's prose, and what remains is a coherent psychological model. The mind has an outer layer that evaluates and judges, and a deeper layer that simply executes. The deeper layer cannot tell intention from reality, can't distinguish a repeated thought held with feeling from a lived experience. It responds to input and produces output. Feed it fear and scarcity. Repeatedly, it produces behaviors aligned with fear and scarcity. Feed it a definite desire with certainty and emotional intensity. Repeatedly, over time, it begins producing the behaviors, decisions, and perceptions that move toward that outcome. And this is where most people get it wrong, and where this book separates from every other self-help book ever written. Hill is not saying thoughts create reality by magic. He is saying thoughts shape behavior. Behavior creates conditions. Conditions generate results, and results compound over years into something that looks, from the outside, like destiny. The man who got lucky, the entrepreneur who happened to be in the right place, almost always, Hill found. What looked like luck was the accumulated result of years of invisible thought patterns pointing in a consistent direction, until the world had no choice but to follow. What changes when you actually apply this? Look at your inner monologue right now. What does it say most often about your financial situation? About your worth? About whether people like you actually succeed? Most people, if they're honest, have running commentary that reinforces every limitation they have. It sounds like wisdom. It sounds like being realistic. It is the most expensive habit in their life, and they have never questioned it for a single day. You are not limited. You are programmed, and programming can be rewritten. The first practical step: write the statement, not a vision board, a specific, dated, concrete statement of what you intend to achieve, when, and what you will give in exchange. Read it every morning and every night with genuine feeling, seeing yourself already in possession of the outcome. This feels strange at first. Then it becomes normal. Then you start noticing things differently. Not because the world changed, but because your attention has been redirected. And attention is the mechanism through which the world reveals its opportunities. Find one person already operating at the level you want to reach and seek genuine conversation with them, not admiration. Not networking for its own sake. Conversation in which you both think out loud toward a shared problem. Feel what happens to your thinking when you're in the presence of someone whose baseline assumptions are higher than yours. That feeling is the mastermind principle in real time, and it is not available in isolation, no matter how much you read or how hard you work alone. And then most importantly, stay. When the first rejection comes, stay. When the plan needs to change it and stay. When 6 months have passed and the goal feels further away, revisit the principles. Diagnose what's missing, adjust, and stay. The mine had gold 3 feet past where everyone stopped. It almost always does. Here is what Napoleon Hill spent 25 years trying to tell the world. The difference between the life you have and the life you want is not primarily a gap of income, education, opportunity, or luck. It is a gap of thought. The gap between the scattered, fearful, unfocused patterns that most people never examine, and the concentrated, definite, emotionally charged thought patterns of people who get what they want from life. That gap is not fixed. It does not require a particular background. It requires the deliberate application of a set of principles that Napoleon Hill documented from people who started with less than you have right now. Edwin Barnes stepped off a freight train with empty pockets and became Thomas Edison's business partner. Are you Darby? Stopped 3 feet from a fortune and spent his career making sure he never stopped that close again. Fanny Hurst received 36 rejections and then more success than she could count. The pattern is not inspiration, it is instruction. Documented examples of what happens when the principles in this book are actually applied. Not read about, not admired, but applied. Thoughts are things. The question is, what kind of things are your thoughts building? If this video shifted something in how you see yourself and your potential, share it with one person who needs to hear it. And subscribe, because the habit of learning is the one that compounds the fastest.